Start the news. Unfortunately, I don't think anybody wants to really go here, but we have to go here off the bat. It's to Tyreek Hill and the meeting that he had yesterday with NFL investigators for 8 hours. A source told ESPN's Adam Schefter. That source said it was a very, very thorough interview. Hill is currently banned from the Chiefs' training facility amid investigation by the Kansas Department of Children and Families into possible child abuse, battery, or neglect. So I'm going to come straight over to Josina here. What are you hearing about the meeting? What may be next here, Joe?
Well, Tyreek Hill had an opportunity to meet with Lisa Friel, who's the Senior Vice President for Special Counsel of Investigations for the league, as well as lawyers from the NFLPA. He also had his personal lawyer in there and meeting with league officials. And it was an opportunity for him to answer allegations surrounding his 3-year-old son and also respond to audio that was heard on a tape that was coming out from a local station around April 26th and the commentary that was on that tape. Now, as of right now, there is no timeline surrounding the allegations and everything that he had to discuss with the league. But you would think that it makes common sense for something to be heard prior to the start either of training camp or the regular season so that the Kansas City Chiefs have an opportunity to address what they need to address with the personnel on their team and know how much he is going to be there for the season and make any other modifications around that. Now, we do know that the Johnson County District Attorney's Office has said that there's no longer an active investigation with regards to Tyreek Hill, but that doesn't mean that the NFL will not discern anything that they needed to discern from the investigation that happened. I think one of the things that we need to address with this situation is that we need to remember, regardless of whether there's any criminal charges or criminal assertions that were to come from this case or any new information, that the NFL still can underline its conduct policy, which if they determine if there's any conduct detrimental, can still surface a suspension surrounding this case if any other information comes up in particular as well.
So, Mike, what's the hardest part about this from a front office standpoint?
Yeah, I think Josina hit the nail on the head, which is, there's two different levels here in terms of standard of proof. So while there's no criminal case going on, at least no active criminal case going on, the league, through the collective bargaining agreement and the personal conduct policy, could still act. And based on everything that we've known or read and based on the track record of this policy, I think it's very likely that he will be suspended. One thing that's interesting to me is watching the Kansas City Chief organization, it's clear to me that they have no plans to cut the player, because if they were going to cut Tyreek Hill, in my mind, they would have done that several months ago, like they did in a similar situation a year ago with running back Kareem Hunt. So to me, I think they're going to hang in there with Tyreek Hill, and I think they're also playing for a suspension, Jack. So they drafted Nicole Hardman, a wide receiver from the University of Georgia. There's other receivers out there. Pierre Garçon comes to mind. He'll be 32 in August, but he's been a productive receiver who has speed. So I think from a front office standpoint, I think you have to be prepared that he will miss, a number of games to start the season.
And Victor, from a far less important place, but take me on the field here, getting ready for the season with the Chiefs. What does this change most about your preparation for 2019 in the season?
I just think as a receiver, too, specifically in that room, you got to be ready to go. You got to understand what the coaching staff is doing. Obviously, they're putting another player in that Tyreek Hill position, and that's got to ring a bell for you and say, okay, they want to take a look at me and see what I can do. This is an audition for me, and you have to understand, as that specific player, it's my time to show what I can do and show and prove, not only to show them that I can replace or be a viable option in case Tyreek Hill isn't playing and isn't there for a number of weeks, but as well as cementing your place on the team and on that roster for not just this year, but for years to come as an individual player, and showing who you are as an athlete. So it's definitely a moment for players to show themselves and see what they can do.
You know what's interesting, too, from a rep standpoint, when you go to training camp, knowing that he's, again, all likelihood not be available for the first number of games, you want to get those other players ready to go. So
exactly.
Tyreek Hill obviously is going to want his reps to get prepared, in terms of preseason, if he's eligible to play in the preseason. But if you're the Chiefs and you're Patrick Mahomes, you want to work with those receivers, be it Sammy Watkins, maybe Hardman, to get ready for opening day. So even how they handle training camps can be interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it'll just be interesting to see what the league's take is on this, particularly when there's not an active investigation going on with regards to Tyreek Hill. And even when you go over just the first sentence of the conduct policy, in which it says, it is a privilege to be a part of the National Football League. Everyone who is part of the league must refrain from conduct detrimental to the integrity of and public confidence in the National Football League. So that is some broad language that is to be considered with regards to this case, and whether you feel like any of the headlines optically had any damage to just the shield itself. and regardless of just even separate of the allegations that came out during the course of this investigation. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think we were also in the green room making the discernment between cases that have video and cases that do not have video, and also how that works to either augment or reduce suspensions or the consideration of discipline after the fact as well.
And just from a front office perspective, I will tell you, 2 words come to mind. I think the NFL is thorough, and I think they're fair. They give the players a chance to, tell their side of the story. The union's involved. So before the league imposes discipline, whatever that may be, I think the process is a fair one. And sometimes it takes longer than we all want, but I think they're thorough and fair at the end of the day.
Yep.
Can I just quickly interject? The reason why I think it's fairer is because that they learned from the Ray Rice situation, and they're doing a better job of letting the legal system run its course and going through the adjudication process and then weighing in, which is something that Roger Goodell said in May that he wanted to do with respect to this case, is wait for the legal process to take its course and then allow for the league to weigh in.
Yeah, okay, let's get to something else happening this offseason. It's in our nation's capital, D.C., looking for a new quarterback, what may be by week 1. Redskins senior VP of player personnel, Doug Williams, didn't say who the starter would be, but told us how it would be decided. Listen to this, Williams to NFL Network. At the end of the day, it's going to be Jay Gruden, myself, probably Bruce Allen as the GM, and the owner, what they do during preseason, and to see where we are as a team to make that decision. So, Mike, collaboration sounds good, but how many cooks can be in this kitchen before things go sideways?
Yeah, that's a great point. There's a lot of different factors here. If you're Jay Gruden, you're trying to win as many games in 2019, so you are coaching Dwayne Haskins and the entire team in 2020. So I know for him, he's going to look at it this very short term. So it may be Case Keenum, it could be Colt McCoy, who's played very well for Washington in the past. And look, Haskins is the future of that franchise. He has elite talent. He has a lot of upside. But if I'm Bruce Allen, if I'm Doug Williams, my lens is much more long-term. Jay Gruden's just fighting for his life right now. So at the end of the day, in my opinion, who's making the decision, and that's going to lead us to the answer.
Yeah, I think you have to be careful with Haskins, especially coming into his rookie season. You don't want to put him in a position where he's a starter week 1 and then he goes 2-2 or 1-3 in the first month of the season. How's his psyche built up? How is he going to overcome that as a starting quarterback in this league, which, as we all know, starting quarterbacks are going to lose a game or two? How do you respond from that? And as a young player in this league, I'm not sure that he's able to respond from that, not because I know him, but I just haven't seen it. None of us have. So I think they have to be careful in trying to put him in there in week 1 and try to make him the guy immediately. I think it's safe to have him learn a little bit from Case Keenum and Colt McCoy and kind of groom himself into a professional and then come in when he's ready.
It's almost like there's 2 different questions here, Joe. It's what's best for Haskins and what's best for Gruden. You know what I mean? Gruden's job's on the line this year, and it may not be what's best for Haskins. Where do you fall on this whole debate?
It's so funny because as I was listening to Victor talk, and he was mentioning that you want to manage the psyche of Dwayne Haskins with regards to the timing of when he actually plays in the regular season. And you're also talking about there's the other side with Gruden, and he has to also be mindful of his job and how he plays those parts. And my actual point is that I think that you have to just manage the overall hope of the situation. You have to manage the hope. This is a team, this is a city that needs some wins and some hope. So what happens is if you start with Dwayne Haskins, right? But listen, right? If you start with Dwayne Haskins and it doesn't go the way that it should, where do you go from there that's going to interject some hope, like some real, like long-lasting hope? And it's not to say that Case Keenum can't do that, because we've seen what he can do, particularly not the Denver version, right? But more so the Minnesota version when he was on a hot run and playing with the offensive coordinator that he had trust in. But we know that the city wants something youthful, something that they can believe in, something that projects the future. And if you start off with that and he goes 1-4, and you're like, okay, Case Keenum. And again, I'm not saying it's because you can't win. I'm just talking about that overall long-term hope for the organization. So you have to manage that in terms of how you play the parts and when they come in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One other X factor to me is going to be Alex Smith. Alex Smith is a great guy, great teammate, and the amount of wisdom he can impart on Dwayne Haskins can last Haskins his entire career. There's a reason Alex Smith has played as long as he has, and obviously he's dealing with a horrific injury, but in terms of how to prepare, how to watch tape, how to when to know when to take your teammates out, all those little things that are so important from a player perspective, Victor, I think Alex Smith could really help Haskins develop.
I agree. And then also, lastly, he's only played, 14 games? So you're only going to know what you have until you put him out there. It's just a matter of when do you put him out there.
And there's not that much real football in the offseason with the NFL, the way all the rules are now. There's not that much full pad stuff, so there's not that much time to learn how to be a quarterback full speed, full
Which
pass.
I know the veterans like a lot.
Yeah, I bet they do. Let's go for job security. Just a couple minutes we come back. Our worst to first series, the last 2 seasons, the AFC South has had their last place team climb all the way to the top of the division. Why that may happen again in 2019. Plus, with Tyreek Hill very uncertain in Kansas City, who is the team to beat besides New England in the AFC? We'll tell you. And Aaron Donald, the king of the NFL's interior, he shares his tools of the trade coming up on NFL Live.
I'm waiting for you to move too. So once I see the ball, you move. I'm just moving off when you move. It just happened.
NFL Live is brought to you by Burger King. Introducing $4, $5, $6 Whopper meal deals. Only at Burger King.
When I showed my mom the DNA,
all the way to the top of their division. Last year there was 2 of them. We had the Texans, had the Bears in the NFC South. You had that thing going on also in the AFC South where the Texans did it. So the South, an evolving division here. 2018, the Jags hit the slip and slide while the Colts and Texans went for the NOS. But the Jags love it. Remember, they were 3-13 back in 2016 before having the Patriots all over the ropes in that 2017 AFC Championship game. So let's look at what they have done. The 2019 Jaguars start their climb behind Nick Foles, the ex-Eagles quarterback, 88 million reasons to leave Philly. 4-year deal he signed with the Jags. Blake Bortles' boat set sail for Los Angeles. He will be their backup. And the Jags pick with their head, not their heart. They go get Josh Allen, 7th overall. He was sliding on draft night. The Jaguars already have a deep pass rush, but they add one more. So how do they pull off worst to first? Could this be the division, Mike? What do you think?
Absolutely. Not only do I think they're going to win the division, I think they have a chance to represent the AFC in the championship, in the Super Bowl and win the AFC championship.
Wow.
So I'm going to say
Why?
They have an 80% chance of winning the AFC South.
He went high out the gate.
Hey, let me ask you guys this. Do you know how many points they scored on average in division games last year? 9.5. So we're going to see a dramatic improvement by Nick Foles in that Jacksonville offense.
Well, for me, I'm not as much of a believer as you are, Mike, but I'm going with 20% here, mainly because we know about D.D. Westbrook, we know about their receivers, but does he have enough weapons? Does Nick Foles have enough weapons to get the ball out to viable options, to score enough of those points that you're talking about, Mike, to make it to compete for a Super Bowl? We know that defense is stellar. We know what they can do. We understand that, and they're going to be better this year. I think they played how the offense played. They kind of played off that energy last year, but they'll be better this year. But offensively, I love Nick Foles, but does he have enough offensive firepower to compete with everybody else in this division?
And Doug Peterson seems to be that perfect sort of a match for the Nick Foles brain, if you will. Can he recreate all of that without him? What do you think of Jacksonville?
Well, I'll tell you what. Notice how Vic held the high standard for the receivers. No surprise.
Always.
But if you look at what Nick Foles has done the last 2 postseasons in terms of 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 72% completion 2 years ago, 60% last year. This guy's played really well in the biggest games. So I really like Jacksonville. I like them to win the entire conference.
Wow. Okay, let's get it to Tennessee. Let's go to the Titans. Getting a little too comfortable they may be at 9-7. It's been a 3-year run with their record stuck right there. They went after both sides of the trenches. Cam Wade comes over from Miami. They had an ex-Ram and Sam Saffold to their offensive line, protect Marcus Mariota. In the draft, they took Jeffrey Simmons, who tore his ACL working out back in February, but could be a top 10 talent at least. And on the other side of the ball, it's A.J. Brown comes over to play receiver. He goes with Corey Davis, Sharp, Delaney Walker. Good group. Is it enough? What are the chances in Tennessee?
For me, I don't think it's enough. I have them at a solid 5% for me. My thing is Mariota the guy? Is he the one that can take this team over the hump? He's been there a number of years. He made it to the playoffs twice, split them both, beat Kansas City one year, and obviously faced New England that one year and got pummeled. But I think it's time to show and prove for Marcus Mariota. Is he the guy that can take this team to the next level? He's got some weapons around him. I'm just not sure he is the guy to take them over that hump, at least not this year. That's why I got him at 5, especially in the AFC South.
Yeah, likewise with Victor, I'm going to go even less. I'm going to go at 2%, going back to Mariota. Never played 16 games, starting quarterback. Hasn't played 16 games in his entire career. They have a new offensive coordinator. Matt LaFleur has gone on, now the head coach of Green Bay. And their first-round pick may not play this year. Very competitive division, and because of the lack of durability at quarterback, I think it's a long shot for them to win the division.
Okay, let's go to Indy. This very well may be a Super Bowl team, talking about the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts, could they go do it? Remember, they won 9 out of 12 years. You go back to 2003. That was during the Peyton Manning transition to Andrew Luck there. But they haven't won it since 2014. Indy brought in Justin Houston to help that pass rush. You have Devin Funchess, Andrew Luck. Going to get another look over on the outside. And they didn't have a first, so they used 3 second-round picks, Paris Campbell, Rock Ya-Sin, Ben Banagoo, if I said his name right. I hope I did. What are their chances of returning to the top with all the moves in Indy?
Yeah, for me, it's only about 10%, and I know Victor's going to see a little bit different here, but for me, I'm a little concerned about their weapons. You know, Devin Funchess only had 44 catches a year ago. I like Paris Campbell. I like his explosiveness, but he's young, he's raw. I think he's going to take some time to develop. So, love the quarterback, like what they started, but I'm concerned about their weapons.
I'm jumping in here, Mike. I'm going at 50% for the Colts. You're talking about their weapons, Paris Campbell, T.Y. Hill, and Eric Ebron. He's got weapons all over that field that he can throw to. And Andrew Luck, coming off a stellar season last year, I only expect more. I feel like this is the year where Andrew Luck takes that another elite level step to get to compete for that Super Bowl. And I do have the Colts pick to make it to the Super Bowl this year, but I got him at 50% in the AFC South. I believe in Andrew Luck, man. I believe in the things he can do. I believe in the talent that's surrounding him. And I think he can get it done.
And they have receivers out of the backfield, too. You mentioned all the weapons on the outside. Naeem Hines, Marlon Mack. It's guys that can all catch the ball coming out. Let's go to Houston, the Texans. Can the Texans get over the hump? Remember, you had the Colts get after them pretty good. That was at home for Houston. So let's look at what Houston did. Honey Badger moves on, signs a mega deal with the Chiefs. Houston looking to protect Deshaun Watson. They use first rounder on future left tackle Titus Howard, that is. We'll see if he can get going this year. The weird thing here, though, is that they fired the guy who drafted him, and GM Brian Gain was gone in early June. They haven't yet replaced him either. So what are the chances that they could run it based on what happened at the end of last year?
Well, if I wasn't so high on the Colts, I'd give the Texans more love here. But I got him at 25. Look, I love Deshaun Watson. I think this team moves as he moves. I think he does a lot with his feet, obviously throwing the football. But they got to keep him upright, right? I think he had over 50, 60 sacks last year. They got to find a way to keep him upright so that he can continue to make those plays and be durable deeper into the season. And he's not dragging one leg out there trying to play football. But I like the Houston Texans. I think they'll do some good things. But I think the Colts in this division are the front runners.
Yeah, likewise. I put Houston only at 8% to win the division. When you have a problem from a front office standpoint, you want to attack that. Keeping Deshaun Watson, it was job number one. Titus Howard, their first-round pick from Alabama State, good developmental offensive tackle. To see him start on opening day gives me concerns. And then you look at Javion Clowney, franchise player. Without a general manager right now, who's making that decision? How are you going to get him into camp? There's such a better defense with Clowney on the field, obviously with Watt. So they have a lot of questions to me that have to go unanswered, and that's why we're going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Nick, I'll tell you what, Mike's already going to be all over the internet with this screenshot.
I can't wait.
We might as well take the picture ourselves.
I can't wait.
But wait a second, it does get to 100, right? That's the
big math. Let's look at the pie charts. Let's see if it does. If we get it all the way to 100, spin it around.
Good.
There it is.
We're good.
Yeah, I think you guys look good. I like it. Math day is looking good here.
There we go.
We got better. We got better as the week went on. 2014 draft class was full of talent, but I'll tell you what, we started looking at all these guys. It was later in the draft where you saw them go. So when we come back, who would you rather take? Aaron Donald, OBJ, if you redrafted, or would it be Khalil Mack? Would you go Donald ahead of Mack? What would you do? We're redrafting 2014 when NFL Live returns.
Car insurance? I know exactly who you should call.
Amica worked harder than anyone else to figure out which coverage was right for me.
Well, the person you talk to can always help you. They always have the answers. And this company is?
They make sure you have the protection you need. But they also know you have a budget. What was that name again?
Amica. Amica.
So get your Amica auto insurance quote today. You'll know you found something special the first time you call.
He's sacked. Ball comes out. Aaron Donald knocks it loose. Scoops and scores!
You can't stop him. He's a machine.
All right, welcome back to NFL Live. Aaron Donald, best in the business. Take a look at this. Scary thought for future quarterbacks. Teaching kids pass rush techniques, that is the last thing you want to see if you're a 14, 15-year-old quarterback. Well, that dude's 14. He's pretty darn big, too. Aaron Donald. Let's get into this. I want to see this because it's not the first time we've seen him teach us moves. Over 20 sacks he had last year, 4 forced fumbles, 2 of those that he recovered by himself. He's elevated what it means to pass rush from the interior defensive line position in every single way. Michael Smith has the secrets to superstardom.
I'm making moves. Look at the view. Look at the view. Yeah.
Aaron Donald is the best defensive player.
He is covered by Aaron Donald.
99 with the sack.
Long time coming, brother.
Yep.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
All right.
Real good.
You feel like you're looking in the mirror?
Uh-huh.
I get all kind of shout outs. Every time you do anything, I get a shout out. So with that being said, congratulations. I was very happy when we got paid. Exactly. When we got the deal. You know what I'm saying? That's what's up.
A minute to win it.
It's Aaron Donald. A sack from the blind side.
How can I lose? How can I lose?
He's young. He's big time.
Aaron's on his way, certainly, to be in the Hall of Fame.
You got the total package. Can you give me an idea of how you get off the ball so quickly, like at the line of scrimmage?
So I'm keying the ball with my peripheral right here, and I'm waiting for you to move too. So once I see the ball and you move, I'm just moving off when you move. It just happened.
Aaron Donald has the sack. It's number 99.
It's strictly just your peripheral vision?
Peripheral, and just as the game go on, you get a little feel for the cadence and, the change up of how he's doing it, and you're able to jump it a little bit here and there. So
it's not just quick feet.
My first step, you say go, my first step is going to go here to here. And anytime you're rushing or trying to get around the offensive lineman, you're trying to flip your hips and get to his back to be able to pull yourself through.
Okay.
Quarterback's there, so if I'm like this, I'm not going to do no good. Right. So the main thing you got to try to do is to get to the man, get to his back, or get some type of limp so you can pull. Right. And you flip your hips, turn your hips that way to be able to get you through, to get to the quarterback a little faster. So, there's a lot of things that go into it. It's just playing a game of football.
Aaron Donald, another sack.
You have a favorite play this year?
I would say that Vikings play.
4-man rush from L.A. Penny, twisted down by Aaron Donald, the reigning defensive player of the year.
It just happened, so it was just such a clean chop club, bang, bang, was standing in, and I just it would have been a little better if I would have got the ball out, but, I feel like that was one of my cleanest rushes this year. Low.
There was a video that had everybody fooled, including me. The knives, man. How'd you come up with that idea?
It was just, my trainer, had a guy that reached out to him. Worked with a lot of SWAT guys and, hand fighting guys with that as far as things like that. So
that was April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
So what kind of reaction you got to it? And people must have been kind of terrified that you was...
When it first happened, it went crazy. I posted it, and then it just sort of, I took it down, because I'm like, why? Everybody like, what is wrong with you? Why are you playing with knives? I'm like, I wouldn't play with no real knives.
That's next level.
Yeah, I was like, I ain't doing it. Because if you see it hitting in the video, he stabbed me. I would be gone if that was real. But, just trying to, think outside the box and trying to find ways to improve my game.
He is met immediately in the backfield for a sack by Aaron Donald.
Do you think about going down as an all-time great?
I don't do this to be good. I'm doing all this training, all this hard work to be one of the best to ever do it. So, I for sure want to be up there, if not surpass them guys. So, we just working.
I'm proud of you, man.
Yeah, appreciate
it. $5.
I got you.
Well, he's well on his way to being one of the best ever. One way we can guarantee we put way too much stock in height and weight during draft season. There were 12 players taken ahead of Aaron Donald back in 2014. Wow. Bortles, Robinson, Gilbert, even Watkins to some degree. I mean, the ones you can't complain about, I guess, Khalil Mack, OBJ, Mike Evans, though. In fact, 9 of 13 picks from that class have made at least one Pro Bowl. So if we could benefit from hindsight here, look back at the 2014 draft and redraft the thing, how would it go down, do you think? Or GM?
What a wonderful experience. I could redraft. I'd redraft this guy. I know that for sure. Anyway, when you're in the draft room and you're on the clock, you want to draft a great player, but you want to, especially first pick overall, who's going to impact the game and make everybody better. I'm taking Aaron Donald. We can talk about his statistics all day long, but really what Donald does that's so effective is he creates so much production for others, because on every snap, the opposing offense is saying, we got to double team this guy. As Coach K always said, hey, we got to have 4 hands on him. So Aaron Donald's a great player that impacts others. The other guy that would be in that conversation, and I know Ryan Pace, the GM of the Chicago Bears, agrees with me, is Khalil Mack. Very similar to Donald. He's going to impact the game on every play. What I like about Mack in particular, too, is athletically, he could actually drop in coverage. So if you're trying to figure out, is he rushing, which he's going to do a lot of time, but you also have the deception of actually putting him into coverage. So he's obviously an impact player. He easily could have gone number 1 overall. Next, quarterback, right? You can't win without a good one. Jimmy Garoppolo, what a great job by the New England Patriots to draft him in the 2nd round. They developed him, obviously moved on and traded him, but he had a lot of attributes. We always talk about character and talent. Jimmy Garoppolo has both. I think he's going to be a winning quarterback for a long time in the NFL.
Has he done enough yet to be ahead of OBJ? I mean, was it 10 starts he has, something like that?
No, Jack, that's a fair point, but it's the position. And speaking of OBJ, I'm taking him next. You know, it's always good to have 4 giant receivers around us. But what OBJ does is you have to double team him all the time. He's going to make their running game so much better in Cleveland because you're never going to see 8-man boxes. You got to account for him on every play. He could change the game easily. So, again, when you're sitting in the draft room and you're looking for people that not only have production, but how can they create it for others, OBJ does a great job of actually creating production. And I look at Cleveland's running game this year, it's going to be much better. And then if we still have Jadeveon Clowney around here somewhere, I don't know if he's still available, but okay, well, then we're going to move on for Jadeveon, and we're going to go with
this is your 6th pick. How about that?
Okay, we're going to go with Mike Evans. And what I love about Mike Evans is he's very quarterback friendly. So if you're sitting in the draft room having discussions, how can you maximize the ability of your quarterback? He's a big body guy. He's a power forward on the football field, 3rd down, red zone. He's a point scorer, and I want him on my team.
I like it. Victor?
What
are you changing most?
I don't have a problem with this list. I love Mike. This list is great. I would just make one change. I would make one change. I would swap these two right here for the same reasons that Mike just said. Odell Beckham Jr. is going to make that running game so much better. And obviously with Chubb back there, I had him picked to go over 1,000 yards this year. For all of that talent that Cleveland has on the perimeter is going to open up the floodgates on the interior in terms of those running lanes. And Chubb is talented enough to take those 2-3 yard run plays and break them for 40, 50, 60. And that makes everybody's job easier, right? Receivers get more balls that way. Play action pass opens up. So that's the only swap I would make. I love Jimmy G. I think he's got a ton of upside. He's going to be a great quarterback in this league. He's continuing to get better and better, obviously, coming off of an injury. And Mike Evans, I love a big body receiver. I played with a guy, Hakeem Nicks, who was, you throw it up to him. He was our red zone guy. You throw it up to him in that back pylon.
He was a Tar Heel, that's why you mentioned that. I'm just saying, though.
Exactly, but Hakeem he reminds me a lot of him in terms of those long arms, back pylon, go up and get it, and you always got to have that to bail out your quarterback.
See, hang on, because before we get to Joe, I like Mike. I like Victor, too.
Okay.
But we got to address the situation here. Garoppolo, are we all in on the fact that Garoppolo already is better than Carr? Is Carr's 2018 that bad that we were saying maybe he shouldn't even be the quarterback of the Oakland Raiders, but there's no chance he's ahead of a guy with 10 starts? What do we think, Joe?
Well, it's interesting because for the same reason that our guy, resident general manager Mike Tannenbaum, put Jimmy Garoppolo up here because of the position, right? So that's initially why you had him in front of Odell Beckham Jr. and you guys swapped those two. But for the same reason that you had him in your top 5 and at the 3rd spot, I'm actually going to remove Mike Evans down here.
I got her. I'm actually her intern, her nail.
Thank you. All right, because remember, this is also part Telestration, part nail camp. Yes, and we are going to put him right here because of the position. Quarterbacks do not grow on trees in the National Football League. And even though I like Mike Evans, and I think he is one of the premier wide receivers in the National Football League, you have to have the quarterback up there because he's the one that touches the ball the most and is the one doing the distribution.
Josina, I have a question, though. Yes. Has Derek Carr lived up to your expectations as a winning NFL quarterback?
Absolutely, because I remember what he did in terms of leading the Oakland Raiders to a record that was 12-4, got him into the playoffs, and if it wasn't for a freak accident, probably would have gone further into the postseason that year. And now we know that there have been changes at general manager and personnel with that team, so now he has an opportunity to prove himself. And the only reason why I have Jimmy G in front of Derek Carr is just because I believe when you go through, the psychology of sports, when you go through so much change and failure and trauma or what have you, he has a lot mentally to deal with. This guy, even though he's coming off an injury and that's adversity, I just believe mentally he's more on that upside and has less to kind of combat in his head. And I like the talent and the upside that he has right now. But it doesn't. I think both of them are talented. If you're watching. I think both of them are equally important just from the standpoint of the position. And lastly, I just want to underline how just crazy it is. Did you say 12 people? How many players went in front of Aaron Donald?
Yeah.
That's like a Mora moment. 12?
Insane.
That's 12? That's a lot of players. That's a lot of players. See, here's my thing with him. You trade Mac, you trade Amari Cooper and tell him to go win football games. It's like, bro, are you serious right now? Like, they're obviously building for Las Vegas. Let's see what he does when he actually has a team around him a little bit. We come back, we're spinning the wheel. Quarterback roulette is headed your way. Worst to first is headed your way. We're taking the NFC South up first. Cam Newton, why he could get the MVP, his second MVP in 2019, we will tell you next. Okay. ESPN Plus will have our next Canadian Football League CFL matchup between BC Lions, Calgary Stampeders, Man Stadium. To get ESPN Plus, download the ESPN app or visit ESPNplus.com. So in 15 of the last 16 seasons, at least one last place team has gone from the outhouse to the penthouse and finished first in their division. The Texans, Bears pulled this off in 2018, coming from the bottom to the top of their respective divisions. Take a look at them right there. And the Saints own back-to-back NFC South titles. Somehow that's the first time they've ever won back-to-back division titles. On the negative side, though, the Bucs have finished dead last 7 of the last 8 seasons. It has been a Tampa drought since their last playoff trip in 2007. And in 2019, Tampa brought in Bruce Arians after ex-Arizona coach had a 1 year off right there. Their defense has a new face and a good one. 5th overall pick, Devin White. Big late spring flip as well. Gerald McCoy out and Ndamukong Suh in. That deal worth over $9 million for Suh. So how does this become our worst to first division, do we think?
So we're going to go with me first? Sure. Okay, so right now I have the Buccaneers at the bottom, and I have them at a 5% chance of going from worst to first. Now, when you think about Jameis Winston, in the last 5 years, this is a guy who has 3 head coaches, 3 offensive coordinators, and 2 different quarterback coaches. I don't know what's happening down there. And then you think of the fact that they lost Gerald McCoy, and they have some situations there where the offense and the defense have questions. So this is why they are at the bottom of my list. Do you want to go after that?
Yeah, actually, I agree with you, Josina. I'm going to go with 5% as well for Tampa Bay. Just staying on that side of the ball. Jameis Winston, not only with his 3rd head coach, but losing Deshaun Jackson, so it's going to be hard for them to get the ball down the field. On the other side of the ball, 27th in defense a year ago, and JPP, his injury is a big question mark for them. So how are they going to get better? I'm a big believer in Todd Bowles, but both sides of the ball have questions in my mind.
So if we talk about the Carolina Panthers right now, I actually have them as the 2nd best team in terms of being able to go from worst to first at a percentage.
Give me your number, I got you. Oh, that's pretty good.
30. I'm actually getting a hand of this with my little nails.
That's my bad. I'm fine.
And you know why? Because we cannot forget that the Carolina Panthers, despite everything that happened at the end of last year, still started off 6-2, despite the fact that they went on a 7-game losing streak after that. So the main reason why I have them at 2nd is because in Cam we trust. I still believe in number 1. And even though he has gone through the shoulder surgery and he has a new, slotting position with his arm, I remember how well this team does when they actually do increase his design runs. Little bit concerned with the fact that they lost Devin Funchess, who led them in targets last year with 80, and the overuse of Christian McCaffrey. But altogether, this team has a lot of experience in veteran leadership.
I see it similarly. A little concerned. I'm going to go with only 20%. And again, Cam's big question mark about his shoulder. Missed 2 games last year, so he's going to have to play 60 games. I love what they did on the defensive line. They drafted Brian Burns from Florida State. They signed Bruce Irvin, and they just recently added Gerald McCoy. So I like what they did on defense, but a little concerned about Cam Newton's in terms of his durability and playing 16 games.
And we have Dirk Cutter comes back for the Atlanta Falcons to be that offensive coordinator. What do you think? 7-9 a season ago, disappointing in a lot of ways. Calvin Ridley, Mohamed Sanu, Julio, all the guys that Matt Ryan has. What are their chances?
Well, for me, this is not the same team since they lost Kyle Shanahan, an offensive coordinator, and since then we got Steve Sarkisian, and now you're bringing in Dirk Cutter. So I'm going to give them a 15% chance, and really the reason why that number is even now just because of the presence of Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Freeman, the assets that they have on offense. I am concerned with the fact that they lost Tevin Coleman to the 49ers in terms of that being a 1-2 tandem on the rushing side, and they lost some assets again defensively. So right now I'm going to have them at a 15% chance.
Yeah, Josina, I see this one a little bit differently. I'm going to put Atlanta at 40%.
Wow.
I love what Thomas Dimitroff, the Atlanta Falcons GM, did in the offseason. He attacked their worst position, the offensive line. He went out, he signed 2 veterans, James Carpenter, Jamon Brown, and then he drafted 2 offensive linemen in the first round. Rare to do, but that's how you attack a problem. You turn a weakness into a strength.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to say that, remember, this is the team that fired all of their coordinators. And so now you're going to have the head coach in Dan Quinn taking over the defense and handling head coaching responsibilities with the loss of Marquand Manuel there, who I thought was doing an excellent job with the defense. And now you're also having to have the offense learn another system again. I'm sticking at that 15.
But just real quickly about Deion Jones, because he comes back in the middle of that defense. That position, why is it so valuable?
Yeah, because he's a 3-down linebacker who's a great athlete. You know, Josina touched on Christian McCaffrey. Deion Jones could cover Christian McCaffrey in space and man-to-man. And just go back to your point, Josina, I think the change of coordinators is actually an opportunity for them. You look at what Dirk Cutter did with Matt Ryan a couple of years ago. They're a formidable pair together. It just didn't work out with Steve Sarkisian. I think the arrow is up. I thought they had a great offseason, and getting these players back that were healthy, that were hurt a year ago, that are now healthy, I think really gives them a real chance to win this division.
Yeah, particularly as an opportunity for them in the red zone where there was some questions at the beginning of the season. They weren't able to be, as productive as they would have liked. But defensively, the weight that Quinn is going to have on his shoulders with the amount of work that his previous defensive coordinator was doing, even though they're going to have some health and return of some assets like that you mentioned, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see.
Okay, the Saints are coming off 13-3 year. Drew Brees was unbelievable a season ago. Going to lose his center, get another veteran coming in. What are their chances? Do they go down? It looks like how in you are on the Falcons, you have to be a little down on the Saints at this point.
Yeah, actually I am. Not a lot, just 35%. And here's why. My concern about the Saints is behind Michael Thomas, they have Ted Ginn, but really their next 2 best offense weapons in terms of where Drew Brees can go with the ball are Alvin Kamara, the running back, Jared Cook at tight end. So I think they're a little thin at the wide receiver position, so that is a concern for me. So, and just, it's a struggle to repeat. So I think the Saints and the Falcons will be something that goes down to the wire in terms of competing for the division. I just like Atlanta, if healthy, a little bit better than the Saints.
New Orleans, I'm going to give you the big 5-0. This is a team that finished 13-3 last year, and they are going to get over the ghost of Roby Nickel Coleman. They're going to come back for their retribution in the postseason, even though their auditions are not blockbuster names in terms of Jared Cook, Latavius Murray, Nick Easton, and Mario Edwards. And I am concerned with the fact that they lost Mark Ingram to the Baltimore Ravens. This is a team that was still first in red zone efficiency since they have had Alvin Kamara, second in yards per play. They can get it going on offense. Michael Thomas trying to get paid. Defensively, they have everybody. I mean, numero uno.
we may need to look at a pie chart just so we can get your numbers in official English here. Let's see if we can spin it around.
But I also love you too, Mike. So we're going to put a heart there.
There we go. All right, Josina.
A little heart there from Mike. So 50% you give the Saints, Josina. 35 might come a little off New Orleans. 40% he goes there in Atlanta. When we come back on NFL Live. All right, so last year we handed out free beer for a win. Now in this city, you can't even get into training camp. We'll tell you why the city of Cleveland is shut down in August next. NFL Live.